but due to the harassment on his mineral line, he does not have a lot more money. So he's not producing any more Banshees at this time. And he is trying to macro up some SCVs again because he is extremely low on SCVs after that harassment. Although he does have enough money, or enough, energy that he can call in a scan sweep. So I would like to see him utilize that, or possibly even call in another mule. But at the meantime, Rollie is putting down an expansion out here at his natural. So Averic will probably need to put down an expansion of his own if he wants to stay in this game economically. As you can see, Rollie already has a bit of an advantage on him right now. His spending is much higher than Averic's, and if we look at the income tab as well, you can see that he is about 100 minerals over Averic because he didn't lose nearly as many probes as Averic did on his SCV line. So it looks like Rollie is moving out with this primarily Zealot army, which fortunately for Averic, he does have mostly Marauders at this time, which Marauders counter Zealots extremely well. There are a couple of Stalkers in the mix here as well, but again, Stalkers aren't that great against Marauders unless you have a decent sized force of them to go along with your Marauders, so that they can take some of the shots. And Averic is sneaking his Banshee around the back here.
That's brutal.
We're going to see him do some harassment on the mineral line, getting some free shots in because Rollie's entire army...
or cannons.
No cannons at all, and Rollie is trying to warp in some Stalkers right now. And he's got 3 coming in right now. I don't see... Averic is not cloaking, so he must not have cloak research for the Banshees yet. He did manage to get 7 SCVs, 7 probes rather. So that was a pretty good amount of harassment, although he is going to lose this Banshee. That may have been able to buy him enough time, though, to get some stuff. And we do see a Ghost Academy.
Ooh.
What do you expect to see from this here, Slice Opponents? Do you think that's going to be nukes, or do you think we're going to see some EMP?
You know, when we play LAN parties at your house, he usually doesn't nuke. And this is very interesting. So I would have to assume that he's doing something other than nuking, because that's just not typical of him. But this is StarCraft 2. The game has changed, and I would like to see it.
I will say this, that nukes have been made much more accessible in StarCraft 2. They are still not super easy to pull off. You have to be a bit of a mastermind to sneak ghosts into places where you can actually get effective nukes off. Although one thing that Averic does have going in his favor right now is that he is playing against a red Protoss. And anytime you are a red race trying to spot a little red dot on your buildings or units, it can be a little bit difficult. And it looks like Averic has another Banshee here harassing the mineral line of this expansion, although he does not pay attention to his Banshee. And it looks like those Stalkers are going to take it down with no problem.
So many Zealots. It
That
looks
is a
like
lot of
13.
13 is a big fan of the Zealot, especially with the new charge ability that they've added to it in StarCraft 2. And it looks like Rollie had Maynarded. I don't know if that's the correct word. I know Maynard is the process of transferring probes from one base to another. I'm not sure what the past tense of that verb would be. But anyways, it looks like he had transferred some of his probes to his expansion, which now he is a little bit thin on his main base, but he is trying to macro those probes up a little bit. And he does have more going down at his expansion as well. And it looks like he's going to move out for a pretty heavy attack here at Averic's front door. Averic does have a pretty sizable amount of Marauders right now, and he does have a Raven, although Heat's Seeker Missile is not yet finished. These Marauders are going to be able to do a lot of damage to themselves.
Good blink.
The blink, though, getting the Stalkers immediately past that barricade. This bunker also helping out tremendously, and it looks like Averic is going to be able to hold this off without too many problems at all. Yeah, cleaning up that Protoss force very quickly. This bunker rather is going to go down, but the Marines inside it's still fine, and he will be able to build another one if he so chooses. And now we are seeing medevacs coming out to support this infantry army. We're not seeing any more Banshees from Averic, so it looks like he is going to stop harassing and start trying to flip into a little bit more of a macro-heavy mode where he just produces a main army. And it looks like he is going to have a pretty tough time taking down this expansion with 2 DTs. I'm not sure if he's going to recognize them immediately or not, but those DTs making very quick work of his Marauders. And it doesn't look like he's seen them yet, although there is the Raven, and he does manage to take down both of those DTs. So no defenses for Rollie right now at this expansion. It looks like he is going to be able to get this base. He gets 1 DT on the Warpin, but he doesn't get the other one. And for some reason, Averic's only detection unit is not at the base anymore. Averic is going to be able to focus fire down this Nexus, but... and there's the scan, just a little bit too late on that one. So Averic not able to quite keep up with that. He was focusing on getting this mineral harassment off with the auto turrets. Auto turret, a great ability that we don't see used nearly enough for stuff just as this, as far as doing the harassment on the mineral line, because they do a decent amount of damage against probes. And as you can see here, this is the lifetimer for how long these things last. They do have a decent amount of life, although unfortunately with only 150 hit points, they do get taken down rather quickly, especially with the strong attack of the DTs. Now, we've seen both players take some pretty heavy hits for their economy, although it looks like Rollie is putting down his Nexus at his expansion again, and Averic is starting to get his own expansion. Although right now, one thing to note is that Red Rollie has very, very little income, although it looks like he's just popped up a little bit by putting his probes back on his mineral line, and Averic transferring all of his SCVs over to his expansion here now. And with these players getting back up their economy, what do you expect to see here in the next few minutes, Slice?
I expect to see terrible, terrible damage.
Pulling a quote from Dustin Browder there, he is of course famous for his terrible, terrible damage quote that he did in one of the StarCraft 2 VODs that Blizzard had released before beta actually started.
Yes.
And it looks like DT is moving into this expansion, although there are a couple turrets here, but if Averic does not act quickly, he could lose a lot of these SCVs.
That's
there we go.
Brutal.
And
one shot on the SCV right there.
One shot on the SCVs. That is what DTs were famous for in StarCraft 1. The ability to take down probes with only one hit. Of course, SCVs, because they had more hit points than any other worker in StarCraft 1, were able to take 2 hits to get taken down by those DTs. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, with the recent patch that reduced the HP of the SCVs, that is no longer the case. It only takes 1 shot to take those down. Now, we do see a decent amount of tech in Rollie's base, but again, his economy is very, very low. Especially with all the harassment that's going on between the Banshees and the Ravens with the auto turrets. And it looks like Averic is having a hard time getting his economy going as well because of the constant DTs that are getting into his mineral line. Both players not really playing enough of a defensive mode on their mineral line, or at least not keeping a close enough eye on it to be able to defend off these attacks and harassments. Although it looks like Averic is moving out on the map here again, going to try to take down this expansion for Rollie once again. And as we can see here, there's very, very little defense, only a couple units on the ramp. Slice, what do you think is going to happen in this attack here?
Well, I think Rollie needs to realize that Averic realizes that he is just building a bunch of DTs and stalkers, and I think Averic is a smart enough player to get, you know, Ravens and things that can counter that. So I think Rollie, if he wants to win this game, needs to change his strategy a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Rollie would be best off getting some sentries in the mix and some High Templars with Psystorm. Although even High Templars with Psystorm will not be able to alone take out this heavy Marauder army. Although there's the GG, so Averic is able to take this win down. Very low econ game, a lot of pressure on the mineral lines. So this was kind of an interesting game to see. Anyways, thanks for watching, and thank you, Slice, for joining me on this Shoutcast. GG.
Anyone want to give me a beta key? I will be gladly accepting of that. GG, guys.
If anybody does indeed want to give a Slice of Ponage, my buddy, a beta key, feel free to shoot me a PM on YouTube. I will be happy to forward that on to him.
Please, sir.
Thanks for watching.
Can I have